Diplomatic freeze as the US seeks to isolate Russia over its armed intervention in Ukraine. Grounded, Tony Abbott's plan for Qantas strikes opposition from Labor and the Greens in the Senate.
Why would any Australian want to see the big flying kangaroo disadvantaged?
They want to turn the spirit of Australia into the ghost of Australia.
Screams and gunshots, dramatic evidence as the Blade Runner goes on trial for murder. And 72 years on, recognition at last for the brave crew of HMAS Yarra.
When Yarra turned towards them, doing her utmost to screen the convoy. Against overwhelming odds, she prepared to engage the enemy.
Good evening, Ian Henderson with ABC News. The United States has declared Russia is on the wrong side of history as concerns mount that the standoff over Ukraine could spiral into war. President Barack Obama says Russia's decision to send troops into Ukraine will prove costly. He's considering economic and diplomatic measures while Ukrainians steel themselves for a possible full-scale Russian invasion. The flashpoint is Crimea on the northern coast of the Black Sea, where Russia has established de facto military control. The ABC's Matt Brown is in the capital of Crimea, Simferopol.
Pro-Russian citizens are getting organised here. It seems to help organise the new order.
Trending lower. And President Putin might find that in the 21st century, money rattles louder than sabres.
Alan Kohler there, and of course he'll be back with today's finance details a little later in the bulletin. The federal government is getting nowhere with its plans to open up Qantas to more foreign investment, and it concedes there is no plan B. The Senate is hostile to changing the Qantas Sale Act, and those divisions were there for all to see in question time in the House of Representatives today. From Canberra, Mark Simpkin reports.
You're trying to kill Qantas.
Fasten your seatbelts low and tight.
What an inconsistent bunch of roosters you
His
are.
rivals are behind bars. The three men will be sentenced tomorrow. In South Africa, a neighbour has told the trial of Oscar Pistorius she heard screams and gunshots coming from his home on the night his girlfriend was killed. The Paralympian is charged with murdering model Reva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day last year. From Pretoria, Martin Cudahy reports.
After a delay of 1.5 hours, what's already being called the
six shots, so no doubt the defence will attack those differences. Martin Cudahy, ABC News, Pretoria, South Africa.
Well, despite the drought gripping much of the country, on average it appears Australia is getting wetter. That's the finding from the latest State of the Climate report, a snapshot of how the nation's weather has changed over the last 2 years. Jake Sturmer reports.
It's tough to imagine, with much of the country experiencing a prolonged drought.
It's estimated the project would cost around $1 billion. To finance now, the situation in Ukraine is starting to rattle the markets. Commodities and the US and European share markets were all sold off today, but Australia and most Asian markets bucked that trend. And as expected, the Reserve Bank left interest rates on hold today. Here's Alan Kohler again.
Obviously, the main impact of the Ukraine crisis was in Moscow, but there was a lot of anxiety evident in Frankfurt and Paris as well, with slightly less in New York. But by the time global trading had moved around to Tokyo and actual construction is screaming out that builders are going to be very busy soon. And that's finance.
Australia is building on its commanding position on day 4 of the series deciding third test against South Africa in Cape Town. A few moments ago, Australia was none for 48, a lead of 255. Earlier, South Africa's skipper Graham Smith told his team this would be his last test. John Hayes-Bell reports.
At 33, Graham Smith has captained South Africa a record 108 times.
Even though she's made the final 4 for the past 3 years. And now with the weather, here's Vanessa O'Hanlon.
Thanks, Ian. It was more like a summer's day, but thunderstorms are rolling into the north of the state. As the radar is showing, despite the severe weather warning for heavy rains about the northern and north central, there has been very little recorded, 0.6 of a millimetre at Charlton. The temperature rose by up to 13 degrees above average today. We had 37 at Mortlake, followed by 36 in Warrnambool and also Dartmoor. Morning fog patches were spotted by the coastline. It was also cooler, 22 degrees at Wilson's Promontory. 7, but it is looking good into Sunday and Monday. Tops of 30 and 31 degrees, and perhaps a shower or two come Tuesday, Ian.
Thanks very much, Vanessa. Finally tonight, there was long overdue recognition today for the crew of an Australian Navy warship that took on a Japanese squadron in World War II. The vast majority of the crew of the HMAS Yarra II were killed in the firefight en route to Australia 72 years ago. They've received the Navy's first unit citation, and as Jessica Longbottom reports, the crew's relatives now have some closure.
It's a relatively little-known story of Australia's war past. None to see this honour, but for their families, the recognition helps. Jessica Longbottom, ABC News, Melbourne.
And that's it for this evening's bulletin. Coming up 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson. That's next.